In this episode, Indy, IMSA Mid-Ohio, Bathurst, and F1 Spanish Grand Prix. Welcome to episode 69. Nice. Of the We Are Auto Show.
You had to do it.
I couldn't resist.
All right.
What's up, Derek?
Mr. Michael Rowell, we have been off for a bit. We need to chat about a lot of racing. It's been two weekends worth of racing.
There's been a hell of a lot of racing. It's funny. While you were dead with the bubonic plague, I sent you a message. It was like, wow, there's all of the racing happening. Indy and F1 and ELMS and Bathurst and IMSA and oh my God. And I think even NASCAR thrown in there. Jesus.
Let's kick it off with Indy.
Okay.
So IndyCar is at Indianapolis, and IndyCar goes to Indianapolis.
At its namesake.
Yeah. And Roger Penske owns the series, and Roger Penske owns the track, and he owns a team that races in the series. Yeah. Okay.
Big deal for him.
It's a big deal for him. So he takes his series, and he goes to Indy for a month. The entire month of May, the IndyCar series is there. So they do some testing for like a weekend for the Indianapolis 500. Then they go and they do a race, a road course race at the Indianapolis road course, which goes backwards around the oval on some of it, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. And then they go do some twisty bits through the infield. And that race happened over the past, well, it was 2 weekends now ago. But let's chat about it real quick, because a couple interesting notes. It started in the dry, and then it went to the wet.
Yeah.
And I think I sent you a video of Colton Herta sliding around in the wet.
It was the most brilliant save that has ever existed. It was full-blown Fast and the Furious drift.
It was pretty darn amazing.
I mean, watching him just hold this full sideways, the thing of magnificence.
He was at the point where the wheel was turned all the way, all the lock it could have, and he was still just drifting. And drifting.
Unbelievable.
And then he finally unwound the wheel after a good 200 feet of sliding.
It was great.
It was unbelievable.
It was that I could just watch that replay on a loop endlessly because it's just so cool. Because to watch him go through that corner completely sideways, and not lose it, oh hell yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I would say that the rain that was happening at that event was it was like that. It was starting to rain, and you didn't know when to put the tires on kind of rain.
It's fun for a spectator.
It's very fun for a spectator, but just terrible for a driver.
I could imagine as a driver that's miserable.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a gamble.
And the teams on the radio, they're telling you, it's going to be raining at this half the track and dry on the other half the track. And you're like, not like this, guys. Please.
Yeah.
No.
And then you become Colton Herta, and you just turn into a Formula D competitor.
Slide through everything. So he did take the win. Do you have the results of that race?
I do.
Okay. Who's the top three?
Top three, Colton Herta, number one. Second place was Simon Pagenaud. And third place, is Will Power.
Okay. And these were the road course cars. So these are not the same cars that will be doing the oval, which is coming up next weekend.
What is the main difference? Is it just aero?
I think that it's suspension and aero. I believe. Yeah. Big time aero, for sure. But I think that there are some suspension components that are also a little different.
I mean, they just beef up one side of it?
Yeah. Sometimes even the cars are skewed in a way. Have you seen that in NASCAR?
Yeah.
Where they're essentially almost crabbing.
Like almost all the front tires are towed extra and canted further. Yeah.
So that is what was going on at Indy. Now, Indy is going to continue, and already has continued. So this past weekend, they did qualifying, and qualifying for the Indianapolis 500, not for the race that they just raced around the road course. In the qualifying for the Indianapolis 500, they have something like 8 practices, and they
That's
bring
a-
the field down to 20 drivers.
It's a lot of practices.
Yeah, and the other drivers are kicked out, and then they bring it down to 6 drivers, the fast 6, and then the other drivers are all kicked out. And lo and behold, eventually you actually get a result. And the result that happened was Scott Dixon took the pole. That's really what you need to know.
Okay.
Scott Dixon will be on pole. We're going to have Alex Palou next to him because they do their 3 wide start. Have you seen that in Indy? Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have Rinus VK on the far right. So
He's got a fun name to say.
Rinus VK. Kind of a weird name.
VK.
Yeah. Now, it is going to be Honda, Chevy. From what I've heard, Hondas are the dominant cars at the oval track at the moment. And also the boost is turned up for qualifying, which is kind of weird, but they just do this for more show, and it will be turned down for the race. So we're seeing speeds on qualifying, single lap speed, single car, single lap at 234 miles an hour, which is bonkers fast.
Damn, that's quick.
But I'm not sure if we're going to see that fast of speed in the race because the boost will be turned down. Now, they will be racing in packs, though. So we could. With drafting, we could. There was a tailwind going into, I think, turn 3 in qualifying, and cars were pushing 142 into the corner.
Ooh.
It was fast. That is scary speed.
That's quick.
Yeah.
That's really quick.
Mm-hmm. I think that there's so far only been one major incident where a car has slammed into the wall, which is good, considering they've done 8 practices and 5 qualifying sessions. That's very good. Yeah. Many close calls. Another notable, Jimmy Johnson will be racing in it.
Really?
I think it's his first full Indy 500. I believe so. I think he did some testing, but this is the first race for him.
You know who I'd like to see race Indy 500?
Who?
Just because? Jordan Taylor.
Yep.
That'd
I
be
could see
cool.
that.
That'd be cool.
I could see any IMSA driver, any big name IMSA driver.
Of all the
in
people,
there.
I think Jordan Taylor would do really good with it.
Yeah.
It just seems like that's up his alley.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. So that sets us up for the Indy 500 coming up. I'll be watching, but not really rooting for anybody. Do you have anybody? I kind of
No.
want to see Jimmy Johnson win. I think that'd be awesome.
I'd like to see Jimmy Johnson do decently. I guess I'm going to root for Pato O'Ward just because I like him.
Okay. The Chip Ganassi cars are the dominant cars so far. Not that surprising, but I would have assumed that Penske would be the dominant car considering he owns it all.
Yeah,
But,
considering it's Penske.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Makes sense.
it's lining up for a good race. Should be cool.
Interesting.
All right. Let's move on to some other racing.
Okay.
How about some IMSA?
Oh, right. How about some IMSA?
There was IMSA at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
A fun track to watch.
A good mix of some straight line, some hilly, some twisty, some cornery, and a really fun flowy track.
Cool track. Just a cool track.
Very cool track. So they were there. They were running. I believe that you actually got to watch this.
This was the first race I got to watch in a very long time.
Was there anything of note that you saw?
There was some shenanigans happening in DPI with Ricky Taylor and who was it? Sebastian Bourdais?
It was the 01 car.
Yeah, the Bourdais' car, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, it wasn't him in the
It
car.
wasn't him. It was his co-driver.
I can't remember his name.
But it was...
Renger van der Zande.
Yes, Renger van der Zande.
Yes.
There was some drama between Ricky Taylor and Renger van der Zande. And it just looked like hard racing.
It was wheel to wheel. People are pushing super hard, sliding half of a wheel off into the grass. One of them got turned around. It was clean racing. It was good, clean racing.
It just looked like an exciting, hard racing.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look like someone got punted. It just was... It's exactly why you watch the race.
Exactly.
It was great to watch. But there was some more shenanigans, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
There was some GT class shenanigans.
Ooh.
As a matter of fact. There was also some LMP2 shenanigans with Juan Pablo Montoya just punting people.
I have a bone to pick with him. The last 2 events, he has done terrible. I think it was him that crashed at Sebring going into turn 1. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, actually.
He crashed right as he got the car from his son, which is a bad look because his son was a I think, in the lead or battling for the lead when he gave the car over. Then he crashed it. And then I think the next event out at Laguna Seca, he also crashed. So, yeah, yikes. What did he end up doing now? What was the Juan Pablo story for this race?
Punted another LMP3.
Of course
LMP2.
he did.
It was, I think he actually even came back and won too.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
But he got a penalty, came back. It's like, just
He can't stay out of trouble.
nosedived him into a corner and just pump.
Just punt.
And the other guy was just like, what the hell? Can you not?
Yeah.
Thanks. But the GT drama, this was as someone watching the race live, this was pretty nail biting.
What do you mean?
So what happened in GT? So no, GTD race, but GTD Pro did not race, which is typical at Mid-Ohio.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Only one of the GT classes races.
Right. So the Corvettes weren't there.
Correct. Corvettes weren't there, which means FAF Porsche was also not there. Darn. But going back to the GT racing, my right Motorsports Porsche, they were never found pace. They were at the back of the pack. It was a horrible day for them. But at the front of the GT pack, there was some McLaren and BMW issues. So towards the end of the race, there was this battle between the Turner Motorsports BMW with Bill Oberlin and then the McLaren, was it number 70, I think? Was it Inception Racing? I think it is. Yeah, with Jordan Pepper, I think, who's racing it. But Oberlin was holding the lead in the BMW for a while, holding the lead. And then they came on the radio to Oberlin, the Turner boys, and they're like, hey, just if the McLaren passes you, no big deal. He'll run out of gas. The math doesn't add up. There's no way the McLaren can possibly make it to the end of the race without topping up on some gas.
So the McLaren was on a fuel-safe strategy.
The McLaren was supposed to be on a fuel-safe strategy.
Oh.
And then just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think they have the first car that has ever regenerated its own gasoline because it just didn't die. The math was not checking out. So everyone's just like watching this thinking, what? How? There's no possible way that this McLaren can finish and not run out of gas. Because you know like how on the graphics on screen, sometimes they'll show like laps since last pit. And it was like an astronomical difference amount of laps since last pit. It was like, I don't remember the exact figures, but it was like the BMW was like, I don't know, 36 laps or something. And the McLaren was like 52 or something crazy.
Well,
and everyone's like, okay, he's gonna run out of gas. There's no way he could possibly make it. And sure enough, he made it.
Well,
so Oberlin was told like, hey, just let him by. He's gonna die. There's no way. But he let him by, and he just didn't die.
Now,
there's a reason why he didn't die, and that's because he came in way underweight.
Oh, tech inspection got him.
So, post-race, tech, the McLaren actually had their win revoked. Goodbye.
Oof.
So, it was tacos for the Turner boys.
The Turner boys did take the win, didn't they?
Some taco time. Oberlin was... Well, not just Oberlin, but Robbie Foley and the Turner team, they were given that win back after they were told to pretty much just let the McLaren by because it ain't going to make it. And then it ended up making it, and then everyone was confused.
Yeah.
But, yeah, good for them. Now, it sucks, though, because it's just not the same celebration.
No, it isn't. It's weird. It just
doesn't feel as warm and fuzzy.
You don't come across the line first. It feels weird to have that happen.
Yeah.
Now, the McLaren that we're looking at here is the one that was in violation, and they did get put to the back. And you can also see who came first, second, and third in this class. It was the Turner BMW, and then it was the Paul Miller Racing BMW, and then it was the Vassar Sullivan Lexus, which is in the back there. So that was GTD. In LMP3, it was the Core Autosport Ligier with Colin Brown and John Bennett. In P2, it was, in fact, Juan Pablo Montoya.
JPM.
who won.
Your favorite driver ever.
Don't get me started. Hendrik Hedman was with him in a Dragon Speed car. And then on the very top, there's the Konica Minolta Acura, the blue car with Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the car right there.
Good race to watch.
There was
some battles.
It was. I always love watching some IMSA. Can't go wrong with it.
Yes. But was there any other racing?
There is. So there was also an F1. Oh, no. There was an F1. But let's first chat about the Bathurst 12hr.
Ooh, I love the Bathurst 12hr.
This was a race that slid under my radar until like the day prior to it happening. And I was like, oh, yes. This is a fantastic race. Yep. So
Crikey.
Down in Australia, in Bathurst, Australia,
Straya,
they run a 12-hour race where they start in the dark and end in the day.
Ooh, yeah.
What a weird way to do a 12-hour.
Ooh, yeah.
But also really awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. So this race starts in, I think, like 5 a.m. is when they started it.
I like that
which is awesome. It was 5 or 6 in the morning, and this is what it looked like. It was just pitch black. You couldn't see a thing. There was even a little bit of fog starting to creep in.
Bathurst Mount Panorama is maybe the scariest track to run in the dark.
Up and down the mountain.
Inches from certain death.
Yep. So leading up to this, the race start, there was basically two big cars that brought two big manufacturers that brought a lot of cars. There was Audi and Mercedes. Okay. All of the Audis were very, very fast. In practice and quali, they took pole. There was also Porsches running, but they weren't as quick. I don't think they had the BOP. So it's basically, will Audi not mess up, or will Mercedes actually be able to run the Audi down over 12 hours? And this is a race where you have 3 drivers per car. You have 1 pro or 2 pros and 1 AM. And your AM has to do, I believe it was 4 of the 12 hours or something like that. And you could not do, you couldn't do 90 minutes in total for a stint or something like that. They had some rules around driver times. So it made for some interesting strategy where you basically put a pro in for an hour, another pro in for an hour, and then an AM in for an hour. And there were a couple situations where you could put AMs in. For example, we started in the dark. The pros probably started the race.
Probably.
Then you went to an AM right away because we got fog to roll in the morning. And the fog was so dense up in the top of the mountain that the flagsmen couldn't see stand to stand, and they couldn't even see the track. So they had to go under caution and run for like 30 minutes until the fog burned off.
Perfect for an AM.
Perfect for an AM. You just sit them in there and let them do time and laps under caution, which is fantastic. Then the middle of the day started to get really hot, and by later on in the day, you got what was like the Florida afternoon thunderstorms, and you started to get pitter-pattery rain, which was always good to watch.
By the way, I can't help but notice these pics are so good.
Yeah.
Whoever the photographer for the Bathurst 12, well done to, it looks like the Edge Photographics team.
Yes. Yeah.
Great work.
This is on motorsports.com. We'll have a link in the description as well. So this race got a little bit of everything. You got some nighttime driving. You got some daytime driving. You got some foggy morning, cold driving. You got some rainy, crappy, kind of getting into dusk driving. It was awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. Turns out all of the Audis had issues. There were 4 to 5 very good Audis that should have won this event.
But they had problems.
But they all had problems. And they all had different problems. It wasn't just, here's the same problem. It was like one team would have a driver issue where they put them in for 2 minutes too long, and that would ruin the race. Another one had a splitter come off, and you're in the garage for just enough laps to make it so you can't actually contend for the win. Yep. Another car just totally bends it into the wall in the fog, in the rain, and they're just out. Yeah.
That's rough.
It was rough. And it ended up being Mercedes 1-2, which
Wow.
was pretty crazy, considering the Audis just threw the kitchen sink at it and still didn't win.
No kidding.
Yep.
That's such a good race to watch. I wish that I was able to stay up and watch it. So good.
It is on YouTube for whoever wants to go watch it. Just Google 2022 Bathurst 12 hours. And I think there are going to be significantly more teams there next year.
Yeah.
Because the COVID restrictions were like lifted from that area like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that's not enough time to plan getting your car there from internationally.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's mostly local teams.
It was mostly local teams, and like one German Audi team was like, we're going to just do it because we want to go win. And they didn't win.
I mean,
So
you got to admit, that's a hell of a race to go and want to go race.
it is.
It's one of my favorite non-US races.
Yeah. I mean, there's like the Spa 24, the Bathurst 12,
Nürburgring
for sure. The 24 is chaos. Le Mans, and like those are the ones. Those are the big ones, right?
It's just such a cool track. It's so cool. I just love Bathurst.
Bathurst 12 hours is one hell of a race. And when they do their Bathurst 1000, the V8 supercars, also one hell of a race.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That wraps up Bathurst. Very cool race. Mercedes did take the win. Audi could not pull through. So now that moves us on to F1. Last time we talked about F1, they were in Miami, and they were doing the Miami shenanigans, the fake water and everything.
Yeah.
Now we went over to Spain. This is Barcelona, Catalunya, a classic track that they've been racing on for a long time. And this is the race that all the teams brought upgrades to. They didn't bring him to Miami because it was too slow of a circuit to really make an impact on having a big aero package change or fixing all your porpoising if you're Mercedes or something like that. So we go into this race knowing that Mercedes is not doing well, that Ferrari and Red Bull basically are pretty even. Maybe debatably Ferrari has the upper hand. Qualifying comes around. Sure enough, Ferrari does have the upper hand. I believe that they take pole with Leclerc, and then Max is second. The Mercedes were behind the Red Bull and the Red Bull. What was the other team? The Ferrari. They were behind those. Had a brain fart.
That's okay.
Now, in the race, many shenanigans did happen.
Oop.
Yes. This race started, and Lewis Hamilton and Kevin Magnussen immediately come in contact with each other. I'm talking corner 2.
That's early.
Yeah, they make wheel-to-wheel contact. It gives Lewis a puncture. Kevin Magnussen gets a puncture, but that's kind of whatever. It doesn't really matter
Just
that
wish
much.
Magnussen would have been able to not have a puncture there.
Right. Magnussen was in like 8th place or something to start the race, which is pretty good for Haas.
Yeah.
But after that puts Lewis way behind, and he comes on the radio and he's like, hey, team, we should just pretty much give up and save the engine. And all the broadcasters went, whoa, I guess he's tilted. Yikes.
He's such a whiny little brat.
He is.
Ugh.
So that sets us up where Leclerc is leading. We have the Red Bull trying to run down a Mercedes because one of the Red Bulls, Max Verstappen, actually lost it going into, I think it was turn 4 or something like that. There was a tailwind, and he just spun it. He slid off track into the gravel. Pretty uncharacteristic.
I feel like that was a common theme.
It was. There was the Ferrari also spinning off, which is odd to see. I think that was, it wasn't Perez, it was the other.
Leclerc.
No. Leclerc was fine. The other Ferrari went off. Can't remember the name of the driver. Sainz, yes. He went off, and that was odd to see. And it was the same corner around the same time in the race, like a couple laps difference between the two. So they were both pushing hard.
Exactly the same, too.
It did.
Back just stepped out. Whoop. There he goes.
Now, I will say that Mercedes did bring an aero package upgrade to this race, and they looked good.
Did they have side pods?
They did not have side pods.
Still.
No, still. But they fixed the airflow at the back of the car, which is what was causing their porpoising. Yeah. So you could visibly see that the porpoising was essentially gone. There was some way down at in like the lower speed stuff, which is kind of weird. But they'll sort that out. Lewis Hamilton did make a run back. He ended up coming all the way back up to, I believe it was like 5th or 6th or something like that is where he finished, which is pretty impressive for him. And then
impressive for him this season.
You're right.
Could you imagine saying that last season? It's pretty impressive. He got a 5th or 6th place finish.
Good point. You're right. You're right. That would not be impressive at all for him. But that did set up the situation where the other Mercedes was doing very well. We had Ferrari out front with Leclerc, and Ferrari had engine issues.
No.
Leclerc was in the lead and came into the pits and did not lead the pits. Yeah. He had an engine failure. Something failed, and he was down on power, and he just DNF'd.
No.
Which is rough.
That sucks.
So that put the other Mercedes of George Russell in the lead, which is weird because there's no Ferrari, there's no Red Bull in the lead this season. That's odd. That's very odd.
And of the Mercedeses,
George Russell.
It's George Russell. Yeah.
Which is fitting for this year, I guess.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. After he is in the lead, he has a massive battle with the Red Bull of Max Verstappen.
I did see some highlights of that battle. Mm-hmm. That just looked like good, clean, hard racing.
It was 4 or 5 laps consecutively of Max fighting a DRS issue where his DRS would not open on the straights. And sometimes it would open, and then another lap it wouldn't open. And he's just trying to catch and pass the Mercedes of George Russell, and he couldn't do it for like 5 to 6 laps.
Ooh.
It was crazy. And eventually, Sergio Perez catches them and actually gets past the Mercedes as the Mercedes is pitting, which is interesting. And that puts Perez in the lead, the Mercedes of Russell, and then the Red Bull of Verstappen in that order, which is 1, 2, 3. Eventually, Verstappen is able to pass the Mercedes, and he catches Perez with some pit strategy that debatably the team kind of threw him under the bus for. And it sets up a situation where the Red Bull team comes on the radio and tells Sergio Perez, you're on a different pit strategy. You need to let Max Verstappen go take the win, which I don't like.
I don't like it when you have to be told, let him by.
No,
Don't
not
like
when it's
that.
for the win.
No, I don't like that. Not at all. Not one bit.
I get what they're doing. They're trying to do the points game, right? They're in a heated fight with Ferrari. You could gain a whole ton of points on the current leader of the championship, who's in the pits with the DNF. And if you tell your teammate to just let him go, you get the full haul of points. But it feels bad. It feels really bad.
Doesn't feel good.
And Sergio came on the radio, and he's like, okay, I'll let him go, but we need to have a conversation about this. I'm not happy.
Good.
Which is a good way to do it.
It's a gentlemanly way to say, suck it.
Yeah. I don't think there was ever a world where Max wasn't going to pass him regardless. I'm pretty sure he was going to get past, but it still feels bad.
Yeah. Just that way they did it just isn't a good... It doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies.
No, it does not. So that ends up sitting up Max Verstappen for the win, Sergio Perez for second, George Russell for third, Carlos Sainz for fifth, and then fourth, and then Lewis Hamilton for fifth, which is pretty crazy that Lewis came all the way back.
It's pretty crazy that Lewis came all the way back, and it's also pretty crazy that Russell is fishing ahead of him again.
Again.
So
So that sets up the drivers' points to be Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, Sergio Perez in the Red Bull, George Russell in the Mercedes, fourth, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari is fifth, and then Lewis in sixth in the Mercedes.
Is way back at how many points?
The leader, Max Verstappen, has 110 points. Lewis Hamilton has 46. Yeah.
God. Wait, how much is just after? So Lewis Hamilton is not far ahead of Lando Norris.
No, not at all. He is a couple points ahead.
Damn.
I suspect that gap to Lando will grow over the season, but I don't think he's going to catch the 2 leaders.
I don't think so.
No. But that does put the team or the constructors in an interesting spot where Red Bull now has the lead of the constructors.
Ooh.
They didn't going into this race. Ferrari's in second,
That
and
DNF
Mercedes
for
in
Ferrari
third.
really screwed him.
That DNF really messed them up. Yeah. So it was a good race. And also coming up this upcoming weekend is Monaco.
I love Monaco. It's my favorite street circuit. It's every racing enthusiast's favorite street circuit. I'll go ahead and just put a stamp on that right now. If you're a racing fan, your favorite street circuit that has ever existed is Monaco.
It's not fake water.
It's real water with real yachts.
Yeah.
It's the James Bond.
The only problem is the passing. It is
Yes.
well known for being a track that does not allow for much passing.
Yes, which is why when there is a pass, it's a big deal.
Yeah. But the atmosphere, amazing. The track layout, awesome. The racing itself, kind of boring, honestly.
It could be.
But you get so much hype from everything else,
Yeah.
right? You watch that almost for the atmosphere and not for the wheel-to-wheel racing.
True. I see your point.
You watch qualifying for good entertainment because they're going to be pushing the limits of the walls and someone's inevitably
bend
going to
it.
hit something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're pushing the limit. But the race itself, to pass, there's like one place, and it's coming out of the tunnel, and that's it.
And what is that, Rascass?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Is what it is.
Either way.
Cool.
Excited to watch.
Nonetheless.
All right. So any other racing news or shenanigans that we need to chat about?
I don't think so. Just be ready for Monaco and be ready for the Indy 500 because they're both on the same day. And I do love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Good
cool.
racing this Sunday.
All right. So that's going to wrap us up for episode 69 of the We Are Auto Show. Thanks for watching and listening. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a thumbs up, a comment, and hit subscribe while you're there, if you could, please. If you're listening on audio, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever, leave us a 5-star rating and a review if you could. Don't forget to follow us on social. Facebook is We Are Auto. Instagram is We Are Auto _ and YouTube is We Are Auto, and our website is also weareauto.io. So thanks so much again, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.